Welcome back, yos. It is championship racing once again here at SARCO. This is round number 6 of our V8 Supercar Championship. We head to the Dubai Autodrome and we're on the international track. Cutting out corners 3 through 7 on the GP track, we go from corner 4 into corner 10. We take a quick look at the current championship standings, and it is Christopher who is now 30 points clear of second place Durkee. Jakes here unfortunately is falling down off the pace, and we have Jacques in 4th with Ben in 5th position. But he would need to keep it nice and tidy because Ross is only 2 points behind him in 6th place. And before we take a look at the starting lineup, just remember this championship is proudly brought to you by Thrustmaster and Mettlestate. Check out the description for more. So let's take a look at the lineup for this 28 lap race. And Christopher, he once again breaks the world record in qualifying. He goes fastest. It is the Octane driver Ben puts himself in a 2nd place. We move back to row number 2, and that is Durkee. He is in 3rd place, and Brandon, he goes 4th fastest, getting himself nicely up the order. We move to row number 3, and the second of the Octane drivers, Shane. He puts himself 5th, just ahead of the Black Mamba Jakes. Dylan unfortunately getting himself a time penalty and letting Jakes go ahead. So row number 4, and that is Dylan for the Black Mambas. He's in 7th place, and then it is Jacques Mal TTR. He puts himself in 8th. Row number 5, and that is Ashley. He goes 9th fastest, and he outqualifies our Scottish international Ross, who's down in a 10th position. Then going to the last row is Stephen. He battles to get a lap, and it is unfortunate for Lendl, who goes and disconnects and can't get a lap in when he comes back in. So now that the stage has been set, it is time to get those engines started and let's go racing. So now we wait for green lights. It is green lights and we are now racing here at Dubai. That's been a great start there for Christopher, moving himself well clear of the pack, with Brandon in 4th also getting a great start. As they start concertining up as they come into turn number 1, there's a 4 wide in the middle. Oh, little contact between Brandon and Shane. Dylan sees them, he goes a little bit wide. Whoa, car going over. That was Shane that went up and over. Let's go back and have a look and see what happened. So just off the contact between Shane and Brandon, Dylan avoids. Jacques, he starts tightening up on the inside, but there you'll see just above Jacques, the rear of Shane's car not under control, and that unfortunately puts him straight into the path of Jacques, sending Shane up and over. And Ashley, Ross, Stephen and Lendl managing to avoid the carnage. So back to Durkee, who's currently in 3rd place. He's got Jakes right behind him. Little look to the inside coming out of turn number 4. And Ben's rear just snapping on him as he hit that curb. That's going to allow Durkee to go around the outside up into turn number 10. Race leader Christopher, you can see he's starting to open up a gap between the 2nd place Durkee. Jakes, he's starting to put a lot of pressure on the 3rd place driver. Side by side, Dylan and Brandon as they come to the second of the hairpins, turn number 12. Dylan runs himself a little bit wide and Brandon tightens up, now looking to close down Ashley, who's just ahead of him. So Brandon unfortunately losing a couple places. Will chase Jakes with them going into turn number 12. Jakes will look to the inside, and unfortunately Ben's run wide. That's going to allow Jakes to move up into 3rd place, and Ben under pressure once again with Ashley now going to the outside here through turn number 15, but unfortunately that is the longer way round. Just behind Ashley, that is Brandon, closely followed by Dylan. So very tightly contested here in the midfield already. So Ashley will tuck in behind the Octane driver. We'll see a single foul as they go past the start-finish line. Brandon chasing down Ashley as they come in towards turn number 10. Brandon has a little look to the inside. Is Ashley a little bit wide? He is slightly, but that will still leave him on the inside through turn number 11. They'll start heading a little bit up the hill towards turn number 12. Brandon looking to the inside. He's on the brakes very early. Ashley goes a little bit too deep. But that is Brandon on the inside now, but he will be on the outside for turn number 13. So he will need to just drop in behind Ashley as they go through the kink. Second and third place, Jake's trying to find a way on the inside here for Durkee, but Durkee will make it a very difficult attempt for him. They come out of turn number 15 now through turn number 16. Both drivers taking a very similar line through the last corner. Durkee is wide but manages to hang on. We chase Dylan, who's got himself behind Brandon. Both Ashley and Brandon are a little bit wide. This allows Dylan to sneak up on the inside. Coming through turn number 14. Brandon will look to the inside through turn number 15, but Dylan has managed to hold it on the outside. This is the 8th place man, Blendl. He's just behind this battle between Brandon and Dylan. You can see how close this competition is in the middle of the field. Some lights flashing between Dylan and Brandon. Some great action happening there between them. Now into turn number 1. Lendl starting to close down on Brandon. So Lendl has started to look a little bit racy here. He's definitely going to be keeping both Dylan and Brandon on their toes as this race comes through. Great exit there for him through turn number 4. Jake's coming down the back straight. Has just not been able to find a way around Durkee. As I'll go into turn number 10, Durkee still ahead there. We'll then look back. There's Ben. He's got Ashley right behind him. That is the battle for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. And just coming around the corner was 9th place. So very, very close here in the middle. But Ben looked like he got the better of the exit. So he has been able to open the little gap away from Ashley. Jump on board with the 3rd place, Jake's. Coming into turn number 14, tricky on the brakes. Very close there to Durkee through turn number 14. Tries to tighten up, but that will leave him on the outside. No space to go around there. Making use of every single centimeter of this track. Jake's is a little bit too wide, but has he tried the cut back? No, Durkee is away. Back to the second of the Black Mamba drivers, and Dylan sliding that car as he has been doing this entire season. Brandon not giving up that fight just yet. Just behind him, that's Lendl. He has started to just drop off a little bit of pace. I'm not sure whether he made a little mistake there. But now this pack comes into turn number 1, now through turn number 2. Brandon getting extremely close through this technical section once again. They're not scared to use those curbs and sliding it on the outside. Race leader Christopher at the bottom of the screen. He goes in through turn number 10. And Durkee, he goes to the inside to defend. Jake still not able to find a way around this second place driver. They head through turn number 11, back up the hill towards turn number 12. Once again, 100 meters, hard on the brakes, tight apex. And the corner just opens out so you can get that power on nice and early. Dylan's brake caliper glowing as he brakes for turn number 12. He looks to the inside, just not enough space there, so he backs out of the challenge. But now he'll tuck in behind Ashley as they go through turn number 13. 100-meter mark on the brakes. Dylan looks to the inside. Ashley sees him coming and he tightens his line. Dylan is right up behind him, gets that power on. Well, the rear kicks off just a little bit, so unfortunately Dylan losing that drive and Ashley is away. We look at our race leader Christopher. He's on lap number 5. We take a look at the current position. So he leads with Durkee and Jake still battling it out there in 2nd and 3rd place. Ben, he's in 4th with Ashley behind him, with Dylan behind him, and Brandon in 7th place. Still very much in that battle. Lendl, he's in 8th place with Ross starting to close up that gap. Stephen, he's in 10th place with Shane in 11th and Maljak in 12th position. So we had the midfield heading towards turn number 10. In shot is Dylan looking for a way around Ashley. He moves to the inside. Not enough space there, so Dylan backs out of that challenge, but he'll get his power on. Ashley's a little bit late on that power, but once again you can see how closely contested this battle is. That was Ben in 4th place, then you got Ashley in 5th, Dylan is in 6th, just behind is Brandon, then Lendl, then Ross. Dylan to the inside once again through turn number 12, just not able to get that power down on that tighter line. We jump on board with Ashley as we swing around to see whether we can get a glimpse of Dylan. There he is on the inside through turn number 14. But Dylan will not be able to get around the outside there. So he unfortunately goes a little bit wide. That's Brandon now. He's side by side with Dylan coming towards turn number 16. The last corner. Brandon is able to stick it on the inside, title wheel sex tape as he exits out of the last corner. On board with Dylan. A little flash of the lights as they pass the start finish line. Dylan will look at Brandon as he overtakes him to set himself up for the first corner. Side by side, Dylan moves to the inside through turn number 1. He now takes that place away from Brandon once again. Now they head towards turn 3 and 4 through the chicane. Big flames flying there for Dylan. Oh, that rears a little bit loose as he gets on the power. Brandon has got a great exit coming out of turn number 4. They will get a side by side down the main straight. Brandon on the inside. Dylan not able to defend as they head towards this heavy braking zone at turn number 12. Brandon dives to the inside. Dylan goes around the outside. This will put him on the inside now for turn number 11. Dylan tightens up, takes a lot of curb with him. He'll drift out to the outside now to protect that inside line for turn number 11. We jump on board with Lendl as they go through turn number 12. Brandon is still trying to find a way back around the likes of the Black Mamba driver Dylan. They'll go through turn number 13 flat out, looking to break 100-meter marker. Big lock up there for Brandon as he came into the braking zone for turn number 14. That's going to allow Glendale to get right up behind him. Brandon goes defensive for turn number 16. Big lock up there once again. It looks like Lendl's got the better drive. He tucks up right behind Brandon as they cross that start-finish line. We'll have a look to the inside into turn number 1. 110 meters, hard on the brakes. Brandon has been able to make that move. Stekor Lendl gets right behind him. Very surprised that they never touched there. That was extremely close. Back to the battle for a second and third place. And Jake's still not able to find a way around the second place driver, Durkee. Durkee is very defensive going into turn number 10. Jake's trying to close him up as Durkee just gets a little bit of wheel spin as he gets that power on. Will Jakes have a look here on turn number 12? No, he is a single file. Oh, little look there. Looks like that Durkee was very early on the brakes there. But Jakes managing to avoid that contact. Great driving by these two drivers so far. Here we're looking at the battle for 7th and 8th place. Brandon is still trying to close that gap on Dylan. But unfortunately you can see that that gap has opened up just a little bit. Lendl, he's now starting to put a lot of pressure on Brandon as they come through the kink turn number 13 into this hard braking zone for turn number 14. The corner just tightens up on you. Lendl very close there to Brandon. Oh, a little bit of the curb. That's going to slow him down. See Brandon just battling to get that power down as he came out of turn number 15. Oh, it was wide once again. Now into turn number 16. Little lock up there. He's not going to be able to get that power on. But it looks like with Lendl going in the much tighter line, he wasn't able to get that exit speed. So Brandon has been able to move ahead of him. Now into turn number 1. You can hear the guys on the brakes gearing down to third. Now through turn number 2, Brandon will just take a little look back. Where is Lendl? Lendl right on that rear bumper as they come through the chicane of 3 and 4. Both drivers taking a lot of curb number 4 with them as they head down the back straight. Will go track side once again. Will Lendl look to the inside and not close enough, so will remain on the outside to take the fastest line here through turn number 10. Second and third, and once again these two are absolutely inseparable. But Durkee winning this battle so far. Jake's not being able to find a way around him. Into turn number 14. We just saw Christopher at the bottom of the screen. Jakes will tighten up, look to the outside, but not enough space there. Will he go to the inside here through on turn number 16? Not enough space. Durkee very defensive. As Christopher crosses that start-finish line, let's look at the position. So Christopher leads with Durkee second, then is Jakes in third. Ben is fourth with Ashley in fifth. Dylan is 6th, Brandon 7th, Lendl 8th, Ross in 9th, Stephen in 10th, and Shane 11th, with Mal Jacques down in 12th position. But we'll leave the battle here for 2nd and 3rd. These two drivers extremely tightly contested. Will Jakes have an opportunity coming into turn number 3 and possibly on the exit of 4? No, Durkee is safe. So we take a look at our 4th place driver. Big lockup for Ben there as he comes through the chicane section. He exits out of turn number 4. We start seeing those lights gathering some momentum behind him. Down the back straight, we'll take a look from turn number 10. You can see that is 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place. Starting to close up on Ben here in 4th. He's a little bit slow into turn number 10 and his exit very, very slow. That's going to allow Ashley and Dylan to close up this gap between them. So Dylan still trying to find a way around Ashley, once again taking that tighter line. Little lockup for Dylan as he went into turn number 12. But now Dylan's been taking a much tighter line through turn number 14. Will he be able to get to the inside here of Ashley? Ashley is a little bit wide. Dylan is on a tighter line. Dylan touches the inside curb, but is not able to get that move done. So Ashley will lead Dylan coming into turn number 16. You can see Dylan driving on the softer compound tires. Big power slide there for Dylan coming out of turn number 16. And Lendl, he's managed to get himself ahead of Brandon. As they head towards turn number 1, we see in the background that is Ross. He's now starting to gather his momentum, starting to get that rhythm. So he too will start putting some pressure on the guys ahead of him. But a really great racing for the newcomers to the season, both Lendl and Brandon. Looking down the back straight from turn number 10, we can see Ashley. He's starting to close up on Ben. Ben really struggling at this stage of the race. Well, big oversteer snap there for Dylan, but managing to keep that off the wall. Ben is a little bit wide coming out of turn number 11. Ben is wide into turn number 12. Ashley, a nice tight line, able to get that power on nice and early. I do get the sense that Ben is definitely struggling through this phase of the race. Through turn number 13. We'll just watch Ashley as he comes through turn number 14. He's nice and tight. Ben's a little bit wide on that exit. But Ben now will tighten up through turn number 15. Dylan sliding that car as he hits that outside curb through 15. Ben looks a little bit slow coming out of the last corner. Ashley's going to get that benefit of a straight line slipstream as they cross the start-finish line. Cameraman Tim, what are you doing? There we found the action once again. Jake's looking to the outside through turn number 3. That's not going to work there. Now through turn number 4. Jake's got a much tighter line. Durkee runs himself a little bit wide, but Jake's has got that slipstream advantage. He'll move to the inside now in turn number 10. Durkee will not be able to squeeze him, but as it gets closer to that inside, Durkee sees him coming. Jakes is able to make that move stick. That means Jakes is now up into 2nd place, and Durkee, he now moves down to 3rd. Jakes definitely playing the patient game there, just waiting for an opportunity, and he made it stick. Dylan getting a good drive out of turn number 11, looks to go to the inside. Ashley defends. Dylan goes wide to try the cut back through turn number 12. Dylan not able to get that power on just soon enough. But now Dylan will follow Ashley through turn number 13. Will he have him on the brakes into turn number 14? Ashley's really good on the brakes there through turn 14. Dylan loses the rear as he gets that power on. That's going to allow Ashley to get away. So that is your 8th man. That is Brandon. He is currently behind Lendl. And Ross, he started to close up the gap between these two drivers in front of him. So definitely more battle still waiting to happen in this race. So we check in with race leader as he crosses that start-finish line. We're able to get up some positions. The producer a little bit late there with those positions, but there they are. So Christopher, he leads with Jakes in second place, managing to get himself around Dirkie. Dirkie, he's in a third with Ben in fourth. Ashley, he's in fifth place, being hounded by Dylan in sixth. Lendl, he's in seventh place with Brandon in eighth. Ross, he is ninth. Stephen, he's in 10th place with Shane in 11th and Maljak in 12th position. So a very similar situation a few laps ago. Jakes will move to the inside. He will defend that line, not wanting a repeat. But now Dirkie to the inside into turn number 10. A little bit of contact between the two. Jakes on the inside through turn number 11. That's going to allow Dirkie a faster line out of turn number 11. Now on the braking zone through turn 12. Jakes on the inside. Dirkie will stay on the outside. Jakes is able to get that power down. But now Dirkie will tuck in behind him. He will follow him through the kink at turn number 13. Very, very close here between these two. Jakes goes very defensive. Very tight into turn 14. Dirkie does have to come off the power. But Jakes has been able to keep this attack at bay. Great driving there. So Shane, who has had a very tricky time. Well, that's Ashley moving to the inside here into the last corner. Ben, unfortunately, going a little bit wide. That's allowed Ashley to move up into fourth place. That's Ben down into fifth. And in the background, there's Dylan in sixth place. He's going to want a piece of this as well. Ross getting the toe down the start-finish line. We'll look to turn number 1 on the inside. No, he doesn't. Not enough space there. He'll have to find another way around Brandon as they exit through turn number 2. Now through this tricky 3 and 4, you've got to get a great drive coming out of turn number 4, because that's going to give you all the straight line speed towards turn number 10. And it does look like Ross has got that speed advantage. Will he ever look to the inside? He moves to the inside now on the brakes. Who will get to the apex first? Side by side they go. Brandon will now the inside advantage into turn number 11, and it will be Ross who goes around the outside. That's a great move. And here comes 4th, 5th and 6th into turn number 10. Well, Ben is very late on the brakes there. Nearly contact there with Ashley. Well, Ashley is a little bit slow coming into turn number 11. Ben is a little bit wide. Dylan throwing that car towards the curb coming out of turn number 11. On board with Dylan. Ben is a little bit wide and that tightens up. Dylan nearly touching Ben there as they came out of turn number 12. Will follow Dylan, just having a look behind, and no one behind in the rearview mirror. 100-meter mark, down on the brakes, down into second gear. You can see Dylan taking a much tighter line, making those soft tires work for him. But unfortunately, not close enough to put an attack on the drive in front of him. Your race leader, Christopher, will come out of turn number 16. And as he crosses that start-finish line, we bring up the current positions. Christopher leads with Jakes in second. Dirkie, he's in third with Ashley in fourth. Ben, he's in fifth with Dylan sixth. Lendl 7. Ross is 8th. Brandon down in 9th place. Stephen, he's in 10th. Shane in 11th place. And Maljak, he's in 12th position. Coming into turn number 16. Ben is a little bit wide. That's going to allow Dylan to, if he gets a good exit, yes he does. That's going to put Dylan very much in his slipstream. Will Dylan have the advantage coming into turn number 1? Dylan has a look. Still not close enough for an attack, so he will have to pull out of that move. So Ben will manage to keep Dylan at bay for one more lap. This is the 7th place driver, Lendl, doing a sterling job here. He is managing to keep Ross and Brandon behind him. He just needs to keep those laps ticking and get himself a good position. So this looks like a repeat of the lap before as we come into turn number 16. Ashley not being able to get away from Ben, but Ben is a little bit wide coming out of turn 16. You can see Dylan getting a great drive as he exits at the corner. He'll tuck in behind Ben as they cross that start-finish line. Ben moving to the inside, getting very defensive on the brakes down the hill. Well, Ben's a little bit wide. That rear's let go. He's gone straight into Dylan, and that's pushed him into the middle of the track. We want to have a look there. We can see a big lock up there for Ben. The rear lets go. Ben manages to catch it, but then as he gets that power on once again, that rear unfortunately just snaps on him, pushing himself into Dylan, and that will then send Dylan into the wall. And unfortunately the front of his bumper, those sparks flying, and that will give Dylan some damage. Lendl now through turn number 1. We'll see Ben in the middle of the track. Ben getting out of the way as soon as he can. So that means Lendl, Dylan, he gets out of the way for Lendl as well, not able to get that straight line speed. Lendl, who was sitting in 7th place, he's just found himself up into 5th. This is your 8th place man, that is Ross. He's going to start closing down on Ben. As you see Ben coming into turn number 10, he's going to go very defensive. And that is Jacques in the background. He too has started to close up a lot of damage on the front of that car. But we know that Jacques went in to get some repairs done, and Ben unfortunately is sitting duck there. Ross being able to go around him with ease. So the extra livery, that is Mal Jacques. Unfortunately, he had a little contact with Shane in turn number 1. So it seems that both the Octane drivers, unfortunately having problems with their setup, both of them are losing it into turn number 1. We'll definitely need to speak to the engineers to find out what's going on there. And there we have Ben going into the pits, deciding the damage was too much to drive with. But very unfortunate to see. Unfortunate there, Ben. So we see that is Ross, but just in front of him, that is Jacques. So he's been able to unlap himself. Dylan having lots of problems with that car coming through turn number 14. You see both Ross and Brandon are starting to close up on Dylan. But we'll definitely see the speed advantage down the main straight. Well, Brandon a little bit wide. That might give him a time penalty, having got all 4 tires over the white line. See Ross just closing down on Dylan, but not close enough to actually make an overtake. So Dylan will lead this battle going into turn number 1. Dylan extremely wide, and that rear sliding all over the place now. Ross is tidy through turn number 3. Dylan sliding out of turn number 4, and it is Brandon who gets a great exit there. We'll watch them as they come down the back straight towards turn number 10. These guys are still battling for positions. Big lock up there for Brandon, but it looked like Ross also went a little bit too deep there. Both drivers opting to take that inside curb. Will Brandon have a look to the inside here at turn number 12? Ross goes very wide, and Brandon manages to sneak it up on the inside. Great driving there for Brandon, just waiting for the opportunity and managing to take that position back. Car number 34, your race leader, we catch up with him as he goes towards turn number 13. Let's bring up those current positions. Lap number 22 of 28. Christopher, he leads. That is Jakes in seconds. Durkee, he's in 3rd with Ashley in 4th. Lendl is 5th with Dylan in 6th. Brandon 7th. Ross is 8th. Stephen, he's in 9th place with Ben in 10th. Shane, he's in 11th place with Jacques in 12th position. Brandon taking a very wide entry into turn number 4. Dylan is slow. You can just see the speed differential between Brandon and Dylan. That's Brandon up to 6th place. On the brakes, will Ross move to the inside? Yes, Ross does. He too carries enough speed. Ross will go side by side with Dylan, and he will be able to get ahead of him through turn number 11. But now on the brakes, Dylan will be able to close up the gap here. Dylan on the softer tires with Ross on the hards. You can see how much time Dylan was able to close up there. But now Ross will carry the speed here through turn number 13. Once again on the brakes, Dylan will be able to close up the gap on the softer tires. That front bumper is just about coming off. Brandon's a little bit slow out of turn number 14. Now to the last corner. 75 meters on the brakes. Whoa, big lockup moment there for Brandon. He wasn't able to get that car turned in. That's going to give... Whoa, Dylan gets a huge tank slapper and then flicks himself off the track. Ross now looking to make a move on Brandon for turn number 1. He has a look to the inside, has another look once again, but not close enough. Brandon has been able to keep the cat outside, but now you'll have to keep fighting. There's still 4 more laps to go. So the second and third place driver catch up to some back markers. That is Jake starting to close up on Stephen. And Ben in the background. There is Durkee, moves to the inside. So Stephen will stay wide through turn number 1. And so will Ben, allowing both the second and third place drivers to get through. Great awareness by those drivers. So Durkee will come through turn number 3. Get on the power through turn number 4. He goes a little bit wide, just about taking out that sign. So he'll be closing down on Stephen as they come towards turn number 10. Stephen will stay. Whoa, doesn't see Durkee coming. I think just a little bit of hesitation there, but no damage is done. And both Jakes and Durkee are through. Back to the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th place. There's Ross trying to get himself on the inside through Brandon through turn number 14. A little snap of the rear for Brandon. Oh, that unfortunately is going to spin Ross around. That was very unfortunate. That means Dylan, he will now move up a place, and Ross unfortunately losing into another position. Just having a look at the slow-mo replay. You can see Brandon taking a little bit of a wider line. Ross nice and tight up on the inside of turn number 14. Brandon looks like the rear just let go as he got that power on. He did hit the brakes, managing to catch it, but unfortunately the nose coming around and just unsettling the rear of Ross, and that will unfortunately send Ross backwards. Ross in a position to get himself ahead of Brandon, and unfortunately that did not go as planned, and Dylan gets himself ahead of Ross once again. So Christopher, our race leader, comes through turn number 16 for the last time. He will win this race. You see Ross allowing Christopher to go because he would not have had enough fuel to do another lap. So Christopher will have a flawless race, but there are others. Unfortunately, we see Lendl moving to the side of the track. He too running out of fuel with only 3 corners to go. And unfortunately, a corrupted file stops us from hearing the post-race interviews. But the final positions are as follows. Christopher, he wins with Durkee managing to get himself ahead of Jakes in the last couple of minutes. Jakes, he finishes in 3rd place with Ashley a solid 4th. It is Brandon who finishes in 5th place with Dylan in 6th. Ross, he will finish in 7th place even though he was lapped by our race leader. Stephen finishes in 8th with Jacques in 9th. And I'm sure it's huge disappointment there for Lendl. Having to retire on the last lap, having run out of fuel. He was sitting in 5th place at the time. And unfortunately, both the Octane drivers disconnected out of the session. Very disappointing race for them. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit that notification button. If you'd like to find out more about our races, check out the description below for our website, Facebook page, as well as our Discord. And just a reminder that this championship is proudly brought to you by Thrustmaster and Mettlestate. So we will be heading to Long Beach next week. So until then, keep racing. And don't forget, thanks for watching. Yos.